chiropractic, adjustment, manipulation, those kind of manual therapy based things, a lot of people, those do help a lot of people. And so in some ways I don't want to say I like that strategy. I'd probably like if you just went to the physical therapist first. Not necessarily the medical doctor, because you can get great medical doctors who are up to date on kind of pain and injury science, and it sounds like you got someone who didn't want to order imaging.
Yeah, he didn't just, he's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not giving you medicine. Go to physical therapy.
Totally, which is great. Like, that's what you want to hear from. And I think a lot of younger orthopedic doctors and primary care doctors are getting better at that. But it's just like, imaging, especially MRIs in the spine, there are a lot of things that exist on imaging that you can't necessarily say this is the cause of your symptoms. And the problem is when there is something there, it could just be an age-related change. When people see those things, it often is detrimental to their recovery. So if you look at places like in the UK, and this is probably what the road this physician was going down, you can't actually get an MRI for back pain unless you've done 6 weeks of physical therapy. They just won't do it in the beginning because they know it worsens outcomes. If you have really specific, the only cases where they will is if you have, say, really severe radiating nerve pain down one or both legs and you're having weakness with it, like your legs are buckling or something. Then that can be more sinister and they'll order imaging. But I think the thing why I'd say there's a lot of, you've got chiropractors, you've got acupuncturists, there's a lot of different professions out there that would treat something like back pain. Even to some degree, like strength coaches and trainers, like they're encountering people every day with back pain and helping them with exercise. I think what's different about the physical therapist, and look, there's good and bad PTs too. So you have to really hunt for a good one. And I think you want to try and find, like, say with your situation, you have back pain. You would want to find an orthopedic PT. So a PT who is board certified in orthopedics, they would have the letters OCS after their name. That's just a helpful thing for people. It'll be a letter and then CS. It means orthopedic clinical specialist. A neurological PT would be neurological clinical specialist. So they'll have a degree and then this board certification. But a good PT is going to do what you've been through. They're going to take you through all these tests. They're going to have you move in certain ways. And then they're going to palpate. I mean, I tell every person who comes into PT, my goal is to reproduce your familiar symptoms. Because if you can reproduce the person's symptoms, then you have an idea of how you should treat it. Otherwise, what you were doing, even though it works for some people, it's just kind of a shotgun where you're just doing a bunch of different things that kind of target your back. And sometimes, really, some people that does work for them. They find the thing. And there is a lot of, even in pain, even if you go to PT, I tell everyone, everyone's pain is unique. And what ends up, we have research showing like these certain things have better evidence than these, but within that, everyone's pain is unique, and there is kind of an experimentation process of like what actually helps this person's symptoms.
That makes sense.
So you have to stick with it. Even I know you're just getting started with whoever this person is, but if they can reproduce your symptoms, I think you're getting closer to figuring out what it is that's causing your pain.
Let's talk about chiropractors, acupuncture. Are those just witch doctors? Is there value there? How much is there value? How much is crazy? What's your stance on that?
Yeah, no, there's definitely evidence for those interventions. I'd say it's less than, and you have to be kind of careful with some of that chiropractic because there are different practitioners in the ways, their approaches to how they treat people. And so some chiropractors are actually very similar to orthopedic physical therapists. There's a portion of manual therapy, kind of that hands-on work, and then there's an exercise component. And so they're very focused on the musculoskeletal system and rehab, and I think that's evidence supported. There's some chiropractic things where they'll claim that like a spinal manipulation is treating something systemically, and I think I have more problems with those, or telling people that like they're putting someone's spine back in alignment. There's a lot of harmful things that come from that. It ends up making people dependent on that intervention, and there's really no research to support it. So I think, though, if you're looking at pain, there is evidence to support some of the interventions you'd associate with chiropractic, like adjustments and manipulations, in the short term. They don't have long-term evidence like exercise, but I manipulate some people and do manual therapy. That intervention does have short-term evidence, maybe like in the 6-week range for kind of when somebody's like having acute pain, it helps to calm things down. Same with acupuncture. And I talk about these in the book. There's a whole chapter that we will put those in complementary and alternative medicine kind of interventions. So they are things that often complement and go well with the exercise and movement therapy, but you wouldn't do them. You wouldn't want somebody to only do those because they tend to be passive. So somebody's doing it to you, right? You're laying on a table and somebody's doing it to you. And passive interventions have just, the research isn't as great for those in the long term for pain. You need to get your system moving. You need to activate your muscles. You need to move. And that's where that exercise and movement therapy comes in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's like this growing trend. Maybe it's not growing. I don't know. There's like a popular trend on TikTok and Instagram of the chiropractors just like cracking people's necks, you know, and the sound effect they add after the fact. I'm almost positive they're usually adding that later. It's like, is that just makes for good entertainment?
Oh yeah, it's so engaging.
Yeah.
I mean, those are like the viral videos. I mean, I've done some of them. Yeah. Like, you know, just like I have one where I'm manipulating Kirsten's ankle, my wife. Like, there's one where we'll pull on people's feet, and sometimes you pull on their foot and their ankle cracks. And I put a microphone on her leg, and everyone thinks it's fake, and the microphone's on her leg, but they just think the sound is. I'm sure some of those other ones are. You know. There's so many funny videos out there where like somebody crunches a bag of chips on the side.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's so funny.
But those make for great viral content. I think people like the idea. There's still so many people that believe that if you get manipulated like that it's changing something instantly with the alignment of your body or doing something. It's like you're fixing this thing and putting it back. Yep. And so I think that's why there's so much fascination. I think if everyone in the public knew that it was just like popping your knuckles on your hands and just a pressure change, they wouldn't.
So is that what that is?
That's all that is. Yeah, your facet joints in your spine are about the size of your knuckles, and they just pop.
That's funny. Yeah, they definitely make it sound, because they'll say like, oh yeah, here's your spine. It's way out of thing, so we're gonna put it back together, and now it's in a line, and now you're not hurting anymore.
Yeah, if you do follow-up X-rays, it doesn't really change.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's the problem with that. That's actually one of the reasons I got started in social media. I was so frustrated having patients come in, and they're essentially being told these things. Telling somebody that, look, you got to come here for 6 to 8 weeks and get this treatment so that I'm going to do this x-ray beforehand, I'm going to show you after that it fixes it, is you're using that as, it's good for business. It just keeps the person dependent. They have to keep coming back. Yep. And then if after 8 weeks, they're like, oh, it just didn't, I've heard people receive this message, oh, it just didn't take, we've got to do another 8 weeks. You know, it's BS.
Yeah. I know every time I go to a chiropractor, it's usually, I shouldn't say, there's been a couple of times in my life where I've done something and then I've been like, oh, I just threw my back out, and then I went to a chiropractor and it fixed it immediately. Yep. It's been very rare, but it's happened twice in my life. Normally you go there and they're like, oh yeah, it looks like your spine's out of alignment. And they'll do something, they'll crack the neck, they'll do the thing. I'll walk out and I'm like, well, I feel a little bit weird because something just, they just broke my neck in half. Yeah, violated my space. And then they're like, you should feel better in 3 to 5 days. And I'm like, well, I would have felt better in 3 to 5 days anyway. Yes, exactly. What are we talking about here?
And I don't want to, I have lots of good chiropractor friends who do like what you're talking about. Like somebody comes in, because there is a place for that. If somebody's like had a back or neck pain, they're locked up and the muscle is spasming, there is research supporting when you manipulate some people, not only it does things placebo-wise too. Like if you believe it's going to help you, it can help, but it also does things at the tissue level, and they'll find that the surrounding muscles that are spasming, their tone will kind of reduce. And I think people just have to know that it can be a helpful intervention at the right time and place, but you want to eventually get to exercise to kind of keep that problem away, reduce it from the risk of it coming back. But it's those models of like, you've got to keep coming back. And just what you said, most things in the musculoskeletal system, that's good for people to know, is that it's called regression to the mean. Most things, if you just give them time, they just get better. Yeah. I mean, your back's been going on a long time, but most things will just get better with time, but practitioners will take credit for it.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, it's this intervention I did, that's where you're getting better. Like, really, if you just track people, most get better.